No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. More than 2 decades ago, Dr. Manmohan Singh made history when he quoted Victor Hugo's hard-hitting lines as he unveiled an era of India's most powerful economic reforms. If his first response when asked about being Prime Minister nearly 2 decades ago was that this country will not accept a Sikh as its Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh has proved himself and several critics wrong as he now completes 9 years as India's PM. Yet, for a man who seemed tailor-made for the job as an incorruptible individual, an able administrator and a celebrated economist, Manmohan Singh's journey has by no means been an easy one. In a tenure that was shrouded by scandals, accusations of poor governance and image dilution with a belligerent opposition demanding his resignation, even as we speak, something clearly has gone amiss. The answer is as complex as the journey of the man himself. But we decided to try and dig a little deeper. Nikita Saxena clears some part of that mystery for you.
In 1991, he was the larger-than-life finance minister who was revered for saving the nation from the brink of an economic collapse. In 2004, he was the dark horse who shone as the unexpected but competent Prime Minister.
I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge my duties as Prime Minister for the Union.
And in 2013, he'll go down in history as the leader who became a parody.
प्रधानमंत्री जी, कुछ तो मजबूरियां रही होंगी, यूं ही कोई बेवफा नहीं होता.
In a country where most politicians are known not by their educational qualification, but their expansive criminal records, Dr. Manmohan Singh is something of an exception. Credentials that no one else in the political arena could compete with. A doctorate in economics from Oxford, and posts that range from being the chairman of the University Grants Commission to Chief Economic Advisor, Reserve Bank Governor, and Planning Commission Head, making him the perfect candidate to be India's knight in shining armour. Yet, one look at his tenure and the murky picture cannot be escaped. Scandals hitting the country at an all-time high, skyrocketing food prices, inflation, a depraved sense of morality towards women, India Inc. that is vocal about its disappointment with the state of economic reforms in the nation, and finally, mass sentiment at an all-time low. Once an outperformer to now a downright underachiever. Why has Manmohan Singh, who was destined to succeed, failed to live up to his own legacy?
Manmohan Singh was too perfect to be true. He was a copybook academic. He tried to be a copybook prime minister. But politics is different from academics in that it's much more demanding on the emotions. And I think it requires a different kind of performativity. I think Manmohan Singh, by pretending he was still giving dull lectures at Delhi school, wrecked the show. Here was a man who really couldn't get elected anywhere. He was not a popular politician. He was not a populist politician. He was a technocrat. Technocrats work in the era of management. Technocrats don't work in the era of leadership. And Manmohan Singh failed as a leader.
Dr. Manmohan Singh is an overrated economist and an underrated politician. Irrespective of the fact that he is not delivering on issues of development, that he is not delivering on the issues of governance, he can get away with murder because he is projected as this very silent, sober, helpless Prime Minister.
As an academician, a technocrat and a workaholic, Manmohan Singh is not your typical politician. So if he was lauded for heralding the bold era of liberalization in 1991, equal credit is also due to then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, who was able to give him the political direction and structural freedom to do so. During Manmohan Singh's tenure as Prime Minister, this political cover was expected from Sonia Gandhi. But as Mrs. Gandhi herself has been oscillating between reforms and UPA's internal conflict thanks to coalition dharma, that political direction never came.
We built a certain brand. As I said, Singh was king. The brand building worked, and I think we were able to project that image and build a certain image that helped him to actually function effectively. In UPA 2, there was no such attempt, and therefore, you know, this whole thing about his being weak and not being political, not being in fact the boss, that Sonia Gandhi is the boss, all these issues came back. I'm afraid he hasn't, he hasn't played that same role. He has chosen to yield space to her. He has decided that she is the boss, and that, you know, he will just do whatever the party tells him to do. And therefore, he and the party and the government are paying a price for that.
In some ways, he was set up, if you like, because of the structure that the Congress chose, which is to separate real power with an administrative position. So you had the Prime Minister who really did not wield real power and did not have the authority, therefore, to enforce any of his instructions or any of his directions. It's not just looking the other way, but it's constantly looking down and is not looking his job in the eye, and therefore is in some ways, restricting his own sense of his mandate and shriveling it so much that he almost had this belief that he was not responsible or he was not meant to respond.
CWG, the 2G scandal, and then Colgate. Battered by countless scandals and setbacks, even Manmohan Singh's celebrated integrity cannot safeguard him from the aftermath of his government's failings. No one questions that the Prime Minister himself is incorruptible. But just being morally upright does not hold stead, considering the rest of his cadre are erring at endless speed. What is further aiding his image breakdown is his complete inability to rein in his ministers or take a hard call.
He did not have a mind to question or put down corruption in his government. Several of his ministers were corrupt and he just tolerated them. And everything is blamed on coalition politics. To keep his chair, I think he compromised on his principles. A man of probity and integrity started tolerating corruption all around him in the cabinet and was unable to take tough decisions against people who went wrong.
Manmohan Singh very subtly conveys that he couldn't do anything because, there were people breathing down his back. And he implies that from time to time. And that is not correct. I think you got to, if you're Prime Minister, you take responsibility for your government. If you're Prime Minister, you take responsibility for your party. You can't keep passing the buck.
If economics is the forte of the man, then Manmohanomics has also not come to the fore. Be it inflation battering the masses or the slow rate of economic reforms in India. Manmohan Singh's non-performance on this count will probably go down as his biggest failing. Coalition constraints may be partially to blame, but for someone who stood his ground with the nuclear supplier group deal,
We will do nothing which will hurt the ability of our Department of Atomic Energy.
and to some extent with FDI in retail, the fact that his celebrated economic prowess has not come through will go down as one of the principal contributing factors to his diminished image as Prime Minister.
At the heart of it is an ideological mismatch within the party, with the party not being able to make up its mind how far it should go towards economic reforms, how far it should go towards populist measures which have given it a left of center pro-Aam Aadmi image, which have won it votes, and it has to go back to the people.
If you really want to hold Dr. Singh responsible, it would be his inability to convince his own party leadership. I would have given him much greater credit if he had left in 2010. If he had left, perhaps his party would have realized his value and therefore either asked him to continue and given him that political cover that he would have needed to carry this out.
Manmohan Singh's dismal performance as the Prime Minister is as much a failure of the system as it is of the man himself. The Congress hopefully will now recognize that the dual power system, where political responsibilities are shouldered by one individual, In this case, Sonia Gandhi, while the administrative duties are handed to Manmohan Singh, does not work. Congress needs a turnaround story now more than ever before. And that story will only emerge if Congress bets on a candidate who is able to combine both the efficiency of an administrator and the political ability of a premier.